Hi there. My name is Mike Posty, and I'm one of the co-founders of this platform we're calling The Movement. I've been looking forward to this call as we need your help. I truly value your time, and so in anticipation of this Zoom call, I recorded this live earlier in the day, and I look forward to our Zoom conversation in a moment. By recording this first part, where I give you all the details on the position, I can make it quicker for you by speeding up the video, which I'll do in a moment. So please excuse me if in a moment I start sounding like a madman, talking too quickly. And then, after speeding it up, I will also edit it to ensure I'm removing anything you don't really need to know right now. All of this to make it quicker for you to understand the opportunity because I sincerely value your time. So I'll first share all the details on the position right here, and then Zoom will automatically open up for us to speak. Look, we've spent many years building what we believe is what's next in social media and commerce. What we've built is different in a number of groundbreaking and critical ways. Ways that many smart people think will frankly change the world, much more than Facebook and Twitter did, which I'll detail for you in a moment. We sought you out based on your very specific work and leadership experience, which we think is ideal for this position. You don't need to know anything about social media, by the way, or even be a user of social media. In fact, this is even better than a position, since we're actually going to offer you a piece of the company and the platform. You will own the territory instead of just working to make someone else rich. It's all been very carefully designed to take minimal hours from you, less than 5 hours weekly. Totally remote and on your own schedule, even just weekends or evenings if you prefer. You choose because you're the boss, as all the work in your territory will be accomplished by others. And then, as if that's not enough, we've also got an even bigger, more exciting position for you, which I'm pretty sure you'll like even more. Since it better leverages your work and leadership experience, takes even less time from you than having your own territory, and is even more lucrative. This very high level position has to do with helping us manage all of these territory owners coming in and earning a piece of every single dollar in revenue coming in from thousands of territories. That means that I have not one, but two opportunities for you, both of which you can do remote, totally on your own schedule and with minimal hours. So you don't need to leave anything else you're doing, such as a job or other business that you're running. Let's start by talking about the territory opportunity. And then once you understand how that works, we'll discuss the higher level leadership opportunity as well. So again, I'll explain how the territory opportunity works, and then I'll detail the high level position, and then Zoom will automatically open up for us to speak. As far as introductions go, here's a quick one on me. I've been running tech companies, meaning serving in the CEO role, for exactly 35 years as of this summer. For 29 of those 35 years, I've been in the social media and social commerce space. All my companies were acquired by other companies, and one of them became the leading portal for college students in the world, a company that I took from concept all the way to filing for an initial public offering or IPO. So I know a few things about operating in the social media and social commerce space, as well as the college market, which, as you'll soon learn, is going to prove to be very useful for us here. This project is a labor of love for me, a way for me and you and other experienced executives to come together and actually do something meaningful about some of the world's biggest problems that we all see happening out there. As part of that mission, we've very carefully set up this to be a business opportunity for you, so that you don't need to decide between doing something really amazing for the world or doing something really amazing for your family. You will get both, as you're about to find out. And oh, by the way, you're going to get this asset and opportunity for free. I'm going to completely waive all the costs for acquiring and setting up the business for you. That's how serious we are about our mission and making this a no-brainer for you, as you'll soon see for yourself. Like I said earlier, I truly value your time and your being here. Plus, I'm eager for us to speak on Zoom. So let's get started. So I think what we can discuss before we meet are three topics. First one, what's the mission? How will you change the world? What's that all about? What does the work entail? And how much will you earn and how quickly will you earn? And then we'll get together on Zoom. Before we get going, I should tell you, I am fairly confident that you're going to love this. How do I know this? Approximately 95% of executives that I've presented this to decide to proceed with the opportunity. This is how I know it. And therefore, I can confidently tell you that if you don't love it, or if you choose not to proceed for any reason, we'll give you $5,000 for your time. We can do this because we have hundreds of millions of dollars of our cryptocurrency put aside for this process and for incentivizing our engineers and our staff. And so, assuming that you're invited by one of our recruiters or one of our members of our staff, as opposed to someone randomly coming into this thing, you can count on receiving $5,000 for your time if you choose not to proceed. Does that sound fair? Now, why is it that 95% of people decide to proceed? Well, first of all, it's a real opportunity to save your country, improve millions of people's lives, and change the world, as you'll soon learn. It's also a real opportunity to be your own boss with your very own business that generates a multi-million-dollar revenue stream for you. And it's free, it's simple, it's proven, and I'll even guarantee your success with this. How's that? So this is why 95% of executives decide to go forward. Let's drill down and talk about how you'll change the world. So in a minute, I'll share a lot more details around how you're going to save millions from hopelessness, income insecurity, and inequality, how we're going to do this together, what that has to do with our country and saving your country, what that has to do with the climate crisis and how we're going to make an impact there, and ultimately the impact we're going to have with small businesses. We're going to drill down into all those things in just a moment. Then we're going to get into what you'll do. Let me give you a quick summary. First of all, what is it? It's a cutting-edge social commerce platform. It's been years in the making, highly patented. I'll show you how to access our patents in a moment. We've had some of the world's very top blue chip tech investors try to invest in it. I'll actually show you those folks here in a second. And we've said no to all of them. Instead, we're going to basically hand out the opportunities to executives like yourself for free to own a chunk of it, a territory. So that's what it is. And we'll drill down here in a moment. But let me just also point out what it is not. This is not a multi-level marketing thing. No offense to anybody that loves MLM, and certainly not being critical about it, but this just happens not to be something that's multi-level marketing. In other words, no one is recruiting other people and responsible for that, or there are no products or services for everyone to buy and get commissions on and all that. All of the revenue is being generated by our consumers that go into our apps and do what consumers do. I hope that makes sense. No one's going to end up with a garage full of shampoo or some other product. There is no product. There are no services for people to buy and generate commissions on. Okay, so what will you do? So first of all, you'll get your very own territory. We're going to leverage your leadership experience so that it takes very few hours from you on your own schedule weekly. All of the work will be accomplished by college students, and we'll train them for you. Does that make sense? So you're not going to be doing any of the work. You're just going to be managing these college students. We'll even help you hire them. And finally, my president, Joe Davis, and I will make you an offer to meet with you daily, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week for 15 minutes, just to absolutely ensure you succeed. Again, we'll drill down into all of this here in a moment, but a little quick summary up front about how much you'll earn and how quickly. There are 9 proven revenue streams. You get a piece of all of them. It adds up to multi-million dollars on an annual basis. And how quickly you earn, I'm going to show you how, along with my president, how to, within 90 days, to be generating $15,000 a month or more, and then within 60 days after that, be generating at least $30,000 a month or more as part of your business. Again, as we go forward here, I can tell you that 95% of people love this, and this is why, right? Okay, let's drill down. How are you going to change the world? Listen, as we go forward, let me start with a little analogy. Imagine a whole bunch of us here form an economy, right? And we're buying and selling things to each other. And let's say we all start off with a general same amount of wealth. Now, imagine for a second if one of us, gets ourselves into an elite position where we figure out how to take 1 or 2% of these sales that we're all making to each other as part of this economy for themselves. Kind of like an elite position. No big deal, right? So if I'm selling something to you and you're selling something to Sally and Sally something to Brad, and imagine I get myself into this position where I'm taking 1 or 2% off that. Does that make sense as part of this economy? Again, 1 or 2%, not a big deal. Maybe we'll just all raise our prices by 1 or 2% and make up for it, right? Well, guess what happens if every day we do one transaction, each of us with each other, and we fast forward 4 years, right? In fact, I had my 8-year-old write a little software program to just loop there and do the math as to what happens. And I checked his software. This is where it ends up. Notice that if I'm that guy that got myself into that elite position, notice that one, the lion's share of all the wealth ended up in my account, right? The other thing you may have noticed is that the pie shrunk, right? Because what's happening is more and more of that wealth ends up in my pockets. I can only spend so much of it. And so that becomes dormant, right? It's just sitting there in my account as opposed to bouncing around and generating excitement and profits for everybody. And so overall, as income inequality, goes up, the pie shrinks. I hope that's clear. Let's take this to a little bit more of an analogy that we can understand. Looking back at history, there's a country that I know you've heard of. It's called the good old US of A. It was a few hundred years ago. They called America at that point the New Frontier. Now, at that point, the United States had less than 1% of the world's economy, or GDP. And then something unthinkable happened, nothing short of a miracle. The United States share of the global economy, or the global GDP, went from less than 1% to over a third, over 33%, in just over a single century. Now, up to that point, all countries were set up, eventually became set up to extract value out and money out for the benefits of their elites, right? These were the people that had the most power within their systems. Now, the US was not the first democracy. England was a democracy, France was there were others, right? But even as democracies, they collected taxes, and much of that went to their king and queen and royalty and the lords and the knights, basically the elites that had power. Now, here in the US, after we kicked out the British, we had all of this land to ourselves, right? Protected by two big oceans. So eventually, when we started collecting taxes, we uniquely had no elites to grease, right? We spent all of that tax money back on the people in ways that help them earn more money, right? So imagine roads and transportation and railways help to really grease the skids on commerce, to make commerce, and transactions easier to happen, right? Or education, to give our people skills that made them competitive on the global scene. Or defense, to fend off other countries that would try to, take what we have or, mess with the momentum that we were gaining. And so we collected taxes, we spent it all on the people in ways that helped them make more money. And so people made more money. And as a result of that, we collected even more taxes. And so once again, we were able to take that additional tax revenue and spend it back on the people in ways that helped them make even more money, right? And so they made more money, and which meant we collected more taxes. So rinse and repeat. And that is the cause of this miracle, right? We, here in the US, it was the first country to become what now economists call, an inclusive economy versus an extractive economy. Does that make sense? Inclusive because all of the revenue being generated is all being pumped back to the citizens in ways that help them make more money, as opposed to extracting it out for the benefit of just a tiny percentage of the people. Now, as part of that, there's also this concept of inclusive versus exclusive politics, right? That ultimately the policies are what cause, the elites to gain more and more of the revenue share. Now, listen, we have a lot to cover here, so I won't go into too much more about this. But if you'd like to learn more about this topic, there's a great book here written by a couple of economics professors at MIT University. And as I've talked to many economists around the country, and they hear about, that one of these fellows has advised us and that sort of thing. I've heard this repeatedly, that these guys are going to win the Nobel Prize for this work, for this book. And basically in that book, what they detail is that when you look at history and countries that were able to create an inclusive economy with inclusive politics end up being successful, and everyone else ends up being unsuccessful. It's kind of going back to our original analogy. Instead of ending up with this situation where a small percentage of people are ending up with the lion's share of the wealth, with a lot of that capital becoming dormant, shrinking the pie, the successful countries were the ones where had a little bit more equality. By the way, real quickly, I'm not one of those people that thinks everyone needs to be equal. Not at all, right? If I'm not mistaken, that concept is called communism. It's been tried and it failed. Everyone is not equal. Some people are willing to work harder than others. And so I personally don't believe that everyone should be equal. I don't think that works. But what's happening currently, if you look at what's happening to the world, starting here with our country, the share of income going to the top 1% has been getting better. In other words, it's been going down. The top 1% has been getting less and less and less of the pie, for a very long time. And then after hundreds of years of income inequality getting better, all of a sudden, something bad is happening here in the US and around the world. Income inequality is skyrocketing. In fact, if you look at the top 50 people in our country, 50 individual people, they've ended up with the same wealth as the bottom half of our entire country. In other words, 165 million people have the same wealth as the top 50 people. And so, as you can see, the problem started in the 1990s. Something changed. What was it? Well, that's something that came along in the 1990s was the internet. The world went digital, right? Communications went to the internet, right? Information to the internet, commerce, education, everything went digital. In fact, they started calling the internet the new frontier. And so as you can see from that red line, income inequality is skyrocketing now. And here's what happened. Anyone with a lot of money could get out there and monopolize entire global industries. Think about it for a moment. A company like Uber and Lyft, prior to the mobile and apps and the internet, how could two companies monopolize the entire global taxi business, right? At that point, there were millions of taxi drivers around the world. And if there was wealth to be generated from that industry, it was shared among all the taxi owners. Does that make sense? Today, what's happened at the top of those two companies, you've got a few founder billionaires. You've got a few hundred millionaires, the investors. You've got a few thousand tech workers, the employees that are doing pretty well. And then you've got millions and millions of drivers within these that are getting squeezed. And I'll talk about why they're getting squeezed here in a second. If you look at other industries as well, Google monopolized access to information, right? Facebook with communications. Think about Amazon. Today, Amazon, this one company, has monopolized retail commerce, right? Where 50% of all retail sales in America are going through this one company, right? At the top of that, you've got Jeff Bezos, has become one of the richest men on the planet. And then millions of workers, employees, and millions of people trying to sell things within that platform are constantly getting squeezed. Okay, let's talk about why they're getting squeezed. Well, all of these platforms are Wall Street funded. And as you know, Wall Street cares about one thing, the stock price, the share price is going up. Well, the way the share prices go up is when these companies hit their profit targets. In other words, they just keep increasing their profits. That's what Wall Street wants to see. Now, think about the definition of the word profit. It's revenue minus costs. And so, of course, these companies generate a lot of revenue, but their main cost is the people trying to earn within these platforms. Think of the millions of workers within Amazon or the millions of people trying to sell stuff. And so to generate profits, they have to very specifically generate a lot of revenue and not spend it all, not pay as much as possible to all those people trying to earn. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a profit. And so as these platforms are becoming economies, right? Think about that. Prior to the internet, the word economy meant country, right? But these are becoming sort of the new countries, if you will. And if you don't believe me, consider this fact. Facebook today has more revenue than most countries on the planet. Does that make sense? Facebook has more revenue than most countries on the planet, so they're equivalent to a country. Google has twice as much revenue as Facebook. Amazon has twice as much revenue as Google. And so these platforms are becoming larger than countries from a revenue perspective. And because they have to show profits to Wall Street, they're extractive. Does that make sense? They're generating this revenue, but specifically not spending as much of it as possible so they can show profits and hit their profit targets. If they miss those profit targets, as you know, Wall Street will hammer them, right? Their stock price will collapse. The executives will be replaced. New executives brought in. They'll say, leave it up to us. We'll get those profits going. And so you've got this very, very strange thing happening here where these platforms are become economies. They become bigger than countries. And because they're Wall Street funded, they're taking things from being inclusive to being extractive, just like what we saw with countries. Does that make sense? And so at the end of the day, this is what's causing this red line to grow because more and more and more of us are earning directly or indirectly from these platforms. And by the way, if you think, well, how are we earning within Google? Now, I can see Uber and Lyft, there's drivers or Amazon, people selling stuff. How are we earning within Google? Well, think about the dentist that gets his or her new patients, right? From Google. He or she places ads up there, and the way their ads work, it's a bid process. So little by little by little, the cost of those ads keep going up to where it's costing the dentist at first, 3 months of revenue from that new patient to recoup the cost of marketing, to 4 months, to 5, eventually a year, eventually 2 years to recoup that. So even though the dentist, you could argue, is not earning from within Google, he or she is spending money to get their patients from that platform. And these platforms have become the biggest advertising platforms in the world. And so ultimately what's happening is that dentist is getting squeezed. Now, why is this a problem? Let's talk about why this red line, as income inequality keeps growing, why this is a problem. First of all, let me explain that this red line is going to continue. Why? Because tech companies will continue to, technology will keep advancing, right? And keep making it easier and easier to monopolize global verticals, right? And think about the network effect where the large get larger, right? So if one company gets ahead of another company, eventually it will dominate because of what's called the network effect. So one, technology is just going to keep making it easier for that to happen. And two, all of these platforms are going to be Wall Street or funded, right? Or funded by profit-seeking investors. Why not? Because investors want profits. Otherwise, why would they risk their money? First of all, that red line is going to continue unless something changes. Now, why is this red line a problem, though? Well, it spells the end of democracy and our country and your country as we know it. Here's why. First of all, as this red line continues, income inequality keeps growing, and people start having a harder and harder time getting confidence, right? And feeling secure about their financial future. And so they start losing hope. Does that make sense? So when people start losing hope, they become easier and easier targets for power-hungry politicians that can easily give them false hope by just telling them what they want to hear, right? In order to get their vote and assume the power. Does that make sense? When people don't have hope, they desperately want it. And when someone gives it to them, just by speaking words, they will help that politician get elected. And you've seen these populist movements around the world happening this last 5 or 6 or 7 years. Look, I don't want to get political and name names or anything like that, but you've seen it for yourself, regardless of whether you're on the left or right or in the middle. Now, as these populist politicians gain power through false means like that, basically promising stuff that they don't even know how they're going to deliver on, historically, they tend to fascism and dictatorships, right? Why is that? Because lying like that and manipulation is all they know, right? It's how they gained power to begin with. They have no idea how to execute on those, promises and actually deliver on the false promises that they dished out to get elected. What they do know and what they will focus on is how to manipulate the free press in an attempt to continue their lies, because it's the free press that's going to be constantly revealing their lies. And so they start attacking the media to try to tell the people, don't listen to the media. Does that make sense? And they also start attacking the other democratic institutions that have been set up to try and hold them accountable. And you're seeing this happening here in the US. You've seen it happening everywhere else in the world. Here in the US, the people's confidence in Congress, as an example, has fallen to an all-time low. Think about that for a second, to below 20%, which means more than 80% of people in America no longer believe in their representative in Congress, right? However, over 90% of those same people, those same senators and congressmen and women that are going for re-election are getting re-elected. Does that make sense? So think about this. If over 80% of people no longer believe in their elected officials, and yet 90% of those elected officials keep getting re-elected over and over again, well, that means we no longer have a functional democracy, and the people are no longer in control of their government. What went wrong here, by the way? Well, it's actually pretty simple. No term limits for congressmen and women. You've got term limits for the president, but not for the senators and congressmen and women. Look, the longer someone is in power, the more funders they start generating, right? The more funders they have that they can rely on. And so that's why, and that's ultimately who they're going to care about. Why? Because they need that money to spend on advertising to get elected. And so as long as they can keep getting that funding sources from the, funding from those sources, they're all set. And so to be reelected again, they need that funding. And so of course it follows that these politicians have become responsive to their funding sources and no longer to their citizens. That the people basically cannot throw them out. And so democracy, as you may know, has been called a peaceful revolution. Think about it. There's violent revolution where you remove the people in charge through violent means. And then there's democracy, where through elections, you peacefully remove the people in charge. Ladies and gentlemen, here in America, your democracy is falling apart. If the people are no longer in control, if they cannot accomplish those peaceful revolutions, well, according to John F. Kennedy, a violent revolution is inevitable. And maybe this is why the majority of Americans now think another civil war is inevitable. You don't think that can happen in America? You don't think there can be a civil war here? Well, think again. Think back to what happened in January 6th. Again, I'm not being political. People are unhappy. And as that red line, as that income inequality and insecurity keeps growing, the writing is on the wall. And again, to learn more about this topic, pick up this book. It's a great book. And so let's fast forward. What are we going to do about it? Well, imagine for a moment what would happen if somehow, just like what happened with the example of the United States, somehow we were able to create an inclusive economy in the digital world, right? Imagine what would happen to income inequality if a new, say, Facebook came along, a new social network that could pump all of its profits, its billions in profits, back to its users in exchange for the value they're creating. Well, of course, the value they're creating is through posting and sharing, right? Without posting and sharing, a social network has no value. Now, to do that, to be able to pump the profits back to its users, this imaginary social network would obviously have to be built without taking money from Silicon Valley venture capitalists or Wall Street or any other for-profit investors. Otherwise, they would rightfully, deserve those profits if they risked their money. Does that make sense? And so again, our imaginary Facebook, if you will, would pump its profits back to its users. Now imagine they also added a marketplace. They integrated into the social feed, right? So that anyone could very easily provide products and services, and everyone can purchase those products and services with a single click. Imagine if a product was so integrated like that. And of course, all those people that can purchase, they're earning from posting and sharing. So everyone would have money to spend. All of that profit being pumped back to the users would act as stimulus. Does that make sense? And what that means is that you're creating an economy. Remember, the definition of an economy is the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. What we're talking about here is the world's first inclusive economy in the digital space. And since, basically like the America, if you will, for the internet world. And since we're talking about billions of users, a very good percentage of the world's population, this will in essence become the largest country in the world. Think about Facebook for a moment. It has 3 billion users. It's just an ad-supported media company. It's not an economy. But imagine if we could do something like this. You basically would have, in essence, the largest country in the world. And the difference here would be that we could make this a democracy. Does that make sense? And that's what we've done, by the way. We've taken some of the greatest minds in the political science and economic world from these top universities, professors of these universities, and we've asked them, what would our founding fathers of this country do differently if they knew what had happened to the world, right? Listen, our Constitution in America is a fantastic document, but like anything that was created in the 1700s, it could use a few revisions. For example, with our own country, how about term limits for those politicians? Does that make sense? And so we brought these people together. We spent years with them figuring out the answer to the question, how would we do things differently if our founding fathers could see what's happening? And by bringing those democratic values and new updates, ultimately, just like what happened with the US, we want to do the same thing here, right? Where we think, just like Facebook and Google and all of these other platforms and Amazon have become bigger than most countries, we want to do the same thing here. The difference being that it would be an inclusive economy where all of those profits get pumped back to the users. If they can spend it, the company generates more revenue, but pumps it back to its users. One last thing I'll say on that topic. Just imagine if your country, any country in the world, generated revenue. They do, that's taxes. But then every quarter had to not spend all of it back on the people, just hoarded it. Does that make sense? How many quarters or years would you go for before people would rise up and bring the thing down? Right? It just doesn't work like that. Countries are not meant to be profitable. They're meant to generate taxes, but spend it back on the people. And the people within those countries can have incentives and go for profits. But the country itself should not be hoarding. And as these platforms become like countries, and yet they have to hoard or they won't have profits, you have the problems that you're seeing. And so we think the answer is another platform like those in the digital space, but one that somehow figures out how to build its entire platform without taking money from for-profit investors so it can do this. And so that's the objective. Let's talk about our timeline. What's happened here so far? So our product innovation, the alpha phase, was completed on January 1st of 2020, about 2 years ago. And then we changed our focus to the marketing. How do we go to market? By the way, we built all of this, as you'll see in a second, without taking money from investors. And so then we got focused on, right, how do we take this to market? In March of 2020, we brought on our first 100 territory owners. And then, if you remember back then, COVID-19 shut down all the colleges, shut down the merchants. Everyone went into lockdown by the end of that month. So at that point, we had a decision to make. Do we just go in with our 100 territory owners and just go watch Netflix like everyone else? Or, when life offers you lemons, do you make lemonade, right? Instead, what we did, we said, let's turn around and change our focus. Instead of expanding and going to market, let's focus on, figuring out how to create excellence and simplicity for our territory owners. Let's start innovating in that area. And so after Omicron died off earlier this year, we decided that, all right, our marketing innovation phase is completed. We came up with a whole bunch of innovations, including 9 different revenue streams for territory owners and account executives. You'll hear about what that's about in a second. Some really cool topics that we'll get into here in a second, some mind-blowing options that we'll get into in a second. And we just started ramping up again. I've already brought on hundreds of territory owners and are expanding rapidly. And so that's our history. And so welcome to the movement. In a moment, I'm going to get into a lot more details about everything. But before we go any further, let me play a little video for you. You'll soon recognize our president's voice, Joe Davis here. And so I'll play this for you. It's a 2-minute video, and you'll get a little sense of what we're trying to do, hearing it from someone else's voice.
Welcome to The Move, a technology company using the power of social media and e-commerce.
And like you said, welcome to the movement. And congrats, by the way. You are about to become a tech entrepreneur, which means you'll really be in a position to do something about income inequality and insecurity. Look, folks, there is so much wealth out there, and it's all going into the hands of a small number of people, and they're not spending it. They have no need for all of that. If somehow we could change that a little bit so those resources are circulating, we could change the face of this planet, right? And then simultaneously, there's another problem happening in the world, and it's the climate crisis. And there's things we can do about that as well, as you'll see in a second. Now, the way you do something about income inequality of the climate crisis is by owning and operating your own bleeding edge social media and social commerce platform, building a very successful business for yourself and your family. Does that make sense? So you focus on building your business and the mission takes care of itself. There's an incredible upside for you that we built, as you'll see in a second. You can download the earnings calculator. I'll get into all the earnings here in a moment. Your business starts with a massively better social media platform. Better how? First of all, democratic, as you know, designed in over 5 years by some of the world's greatest political science and economics professors from our top universities around the United States. All of our profits distributed to our users daily. How do we do this? Why don't we have to have profits to show investors? Well, we've spent $250 million building this platform, but 100% of that money came from our patents, revenue from our alpha users, and donations from them. Not a single penny came from Wall Street or Silicon Valley investors, despite some great, incredible people, billionaires, making incredible offers to us. Barry Diller is the owner of all kinds of platforms, from Trivago to Hotels.com, Expedia, and many others. Rockefellers are some of the richest people in America. They made 2 offers to us over a 3-year period, and we said no to that. This gentleman here is considered the #1 tech investor in the world. He was the first investor in Google, the first investor in Amazon, and many, many other platforms over a 45-year period. He gave us this actual offer. This is his offer letter, where you can see he valued us at $180 million on what's called a Series A, which means the first money in, which he claimed was the highest price he's ever placed on a Series A. Listen, on Google's first investment, they were valued between 5 and 10 million. Same with Amazon, same with most companies. They're usually valued between 5 and 10 million as a company on their first investment in. This Series A, 180 million, is incredible. And we had to walk. We had to say no, as much as we would have loved to work with him, for the reasons that you now understand our mission. So not a single penny from Wall Street or Silicon Valley or any for-profit investors, so that we could stay true to this mission. And so all our profits distributed to our users daily. And if you know anything about the problems being created by social media today, our platform doesn't create these echo chambers that divide us. If you want to know more about this topic, there's a great documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. Watch that. I think you'll enjoy hearing it. The ex-president of Facebook, the ex-head of monetization of Facebook, the ex-president of Pinterest, executives from Twitter and Google come together in that documentary called The Social Dilemma to explain how the thing they created are destroying democracy, destroying countries, destroying kids, destroying the world, right? And in the last 3 minutes, they explain how they have no idea what to do about it. Well, we've spent 12 years on this singular thing. And so our social network, 12 years to develop, we've had over 1,000 product and engineering professionals work on it, 800,000 alpha test users helping us with the ideas, helping us test it, using it, helping us understand how users would use this stuff and improve the products, and help and being forgiving of us when we kept trying different things that failed and ultimately didn't work, and so we kept improving them until they did. Just through this testing process from those users, we generated over $100 million in revenue just from this process. We have a tremendous amount of patents, things we had to invent in trying to bring this whole platform together. To give you an example of some of our inventions, the concept of virtual currency, we have a patent to prove that. I'll show that to you here in a second. Transactions over mobile devices, so people transacting using mobile phones. Apps in social networks, so the concept of Facebook apps, Twitter apps, any social network that offers an opportunity for third-party developers to build apps within it, one of our patents. Any transactions within apps, so imagine a game, Farmville, or any game where you can buy weapons and and basically pay for stuff within the apps, another one of our patents. Look, if you want to visit our patents and view them for yourself, Google has a great patent search tool, and you can visit it at google.com/patents. If you go to that, google.com/patents, and type in POUSTI, what you'll find is those patents I just showed you and a whole bunch of others. But in addition to that, something very interesting will happen. When you search on that, you'll find a bunch of other patents as well will pop up from companies that you've heard of. Everyone from Google to eBay to Microsoft to Vodafone to all kinds of companies. And so when you search on one of our co-founders, why do their patents show up? And the answer is because our patent portfolio has become so broad that a lot of these companies, when they file patents, they're being rejected right off the bat. The patent office is saying, sorry, these guys beat you there. And so now what they're doing in their original patent filings is they're saying, listen, patent office, we know you're going to reject us. You're going to say this company got there first, but we're actually different in this way, so please don't reject us. And so that's why they're now naming our patent portfolio and our founders in their patent filings to try to ask the patent office not to reject and say, look, we saw that and we're different in this way. Does that make sense? What that means to you, it should give you a sense of how broad our patent portfolio is. And this is all on Google looking at the United States Patent Office, database. And so how's our social network different? It's an entirely new approach to social media engagement. Let me talk about our strategy. We basically are focused on maximize economic value, as you know, to our users, instead of maximizing how much time they spend on our product. So we want to do that, maximize economic value to them while minimizing the amount of time they spend on our product. Does that make sense? So it's the opposite of all other products that are trying to get them to spend as much time as possible. We're trying to get them to spend less time, give them what they want, but make it as efficient as possible. And so what that ultimately means is that we want to figure out how to get as much money as possible into the pockets of our users for each minute of their time. Think about what that means. We can get them more money, or we can get them off the product quicker and be more efficient. Does that make sense? So it has the opposite effect of what all the other platforms are trying to do, where they're trying to get users to spend more and more time. This is a picture of our product in the alpha stage. It's easier to show here because it's web-based, and going forward, it'll all be mobile-based. But just to give you a sense, you're looking at Sarah's profile here. Notice that there's content, photos, blogs, videos, what have you, like any other social network. There's also marketplace elements integrated into the social feed where you can, sell a product or buy a product or a service. It could be fixed price or auction. It could be one-off charging or recurring billing, right? Everything somebody needs to either sell a product or service, or rent products as well as our way of attacking the climate crisis, as you'll see in a second. So everything's integrated into the social feed, forming an economy. Now, when I visit Sarah's profile, notice there's this loop up there. And within that loop, it tells me what it takes for me to close the loop with her. So I can either like 2 of her things. Remember, she's earning from posting and sharing and liking. So when I like her stuff, she earns. So if I like 2 of her posts, she'll earn. Or if I buy or bid on anything that she's selling, in this case, for 1 penny or greater, the loop starts to close, as you can see now. Does that make sense? And I've now closed the loop with her by doing those things. Right? And so as I do that with her, and then she comes back and produces economic value for me by doing the same thing on my profile, this element starts to grow, the trust built. Does that make sense? So we're building trust. Think about the definition of the word trust. It's predictability and behavior. As I do this with more and more people and they do it back with me, that bar grows, meaning we're growing trust. It gets to a point where I have 99% confidence. If I help her earn, she's going to come back and help me earn. And before you know it, literally in weeks, I've got hundreds of people that are helping me earn every single day. Does that make sense? And when I'm done closing the loop with her, I press this thing, or on mobile, I just swipe and I go to the next profile. So, and then I do the same thing there. And so what's the result of this different approach where we don't have a homepage feed where that brings together all the content from people and tries to get me to spend more time on it, but instead sends me to the profiles of the people I care about most, and allows me to check out their content, do exactly that I'm doing on other social media platforms, but help people earn, and in reciprocity, it then presents me to them so they can do the same thing. Well, the result of that is that 90% of our alpha users were posting daily, as opposed to less than 10% of Facebook and Twitter's users, right? Go figure. Once you make something capitalist, right, people get more engaged. Think about West Germany versus East Germany and the difference in GDP that happened there, and the difference in per capita income. Or North Korea versus South Korea, or the old Soviet Union versus America, right? When you take something from being, Facebook, an ad-supported media company, centrally controlled, where no one really gets to earn, just like in communist countries, and all the wealth goes to a small number of people. Instead, you break that open, you make it so everybody can earn, like any capitalist country, and where the revenues being generated by the platform get pumped to everyone as stimulus so they can spend it with each other. Well, the result is exactly what you saw in all those countries, right? And we create an unbreakable network effect, generating network lock-in. What am I talking about? We're the first company to do this, right? So it creates a barrier to entry for competitors. Why is that? Well, think about it. If I'm building trust with Sarah and we've gone back and forth and that bar is growing, and another platform tries to compete with us and offering more bells and whistles and similar things, do I really want to switch and start over when I've got hundreds of people that I've built trust with? And there's all kinds of benefits that come with that trust built, by the way. Do I really want to start over? No. In the same way that when Google Plus launched to compete with Facebook, offered a better product, more bells and whistles, people didn't want to switch and go do their baby photos over there. Why? Because they had all their friends network lock-in on Facebook. Well, in our case, this is stuff that the other social media platforms don't offer. The ability to earn because of our mission, right? And so as people come here, they don't have to give up their Facebook, their Snapchat, their Twitter. They come here and start doing this to earn. Eventually they get to a point where they're thinking, why am I doing this everywhere else and not earning? And little by little by little, the switch starts to happen. And it creates lock-in, right? Where they don't want to leave if someone else comes along and offers similar things, even if they're slightly better. Now, this flow we call the trust flow, it also generates more revenue for the platform than selling advertising, selling user attention, and selling users' data to third parties, all the bad stuff that Facebook's been accused of. It generates more revenue. Why? Because transactions are happening. It's capitalist versus this ad-supported media company. It also near eliminates the propagation of fake news, conspiracy theories, and all these bad things, these echo chambers that have been destroying virtually everything that mattered to us and creating these fiefdoms, right? It also works to get the users off the platform as opposed to trying to get them addicted, right? We're trying to generate more revenue for our users with less of their time instead of more of their time. And it's completely compatible with our mission, which is to help local merchants fight climate change and fight income insecurity and inequality. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Facebook killer that everyone's been waiting for a very long time. By the way, if you take a look at what's been going on with Facebook shares, have you noticed that they lost half of their market cap, of their value within the last few months? And so they don't know how to fix their problems. And instead of trying to fix it anymore, What they've said is, look, we don't know how to fix it. We're going to go off and do this other thing. They changed their name to Meta, as you may know, where basically they say, look, we're all going to wear these 3D glasses and have avatars, and please, employees, don't leave. Please, shareholders, don't leave. Because we're going to go do this. It's going to be amazing. So they basically picked up their ball and are leaving. What an amazing time for you to get involved in a platform when the 800-pound gorilla in the space is giving up and they don't know how to fix their problems, and we know how to fix it, right? We spent 12 years getting that right. And so it's the perfect time to get involved in a space when the 800-pound gorilla is leaving. So as I said, your business starts with a massively better social media platform that, as we just talked about, we integrate in a revolutionary marketplace for products and services. Revolutionary how? Well, everything sellers need are provided to them, from the storefront to educators that can handhold them for free. And anytime they get lost or need help, there's someone always there for them 7 days a week. Everything they need related to money, customer service, not just for them, but for their customers, everything they need provided. And here's the best part: a dependable stream of thousands of customers coming to their storefront each month for free through that trust flow, right? Without them spending a single penny on advertising. And all of those customers that come have money they can spend with a single click for the reasons that we talked about. So it's the most complete marketplace offering in existence. The bottom line, anybody can sell or share virtually anything easily. Everything's provided for free, and you can be up and running in 30 seconds for free with zero capital and zero business experience. We'll handhold them. And one more thing, the marketplace that you have there will enable what we're calling everything fast and free, where basically everyone can rent virtually anything they can think of, which encourages the sharing of everything over everyone owning one of everything. Does that make sense? So there's millions and millions of products out there that are hardly being used. If I want to go camping this weekend, I could go spend $1,000 buying some camping gear, right? And when I'm done with it after the weekend, now I have to put it in storage, and 99% of its useful life is just going to be sitting there. Imagine instead of doing that, I could press a button on my phone, just like I would to get an Uber, right? And within 1 hour, a transporter is going to go get it from the person who's renting it and bring it to me, so that renter generates revenue. I would pay $10 or $20 a day instead of spending $1,000. And 3-4 days from now, when I'm done with it, I press a button, a transporter comes and gets it and takes it back to the other person. Now, that other person generated revenue from something that's just sitting there, so they start making that some really good earnings from stuff that they're not using. And on my end, it was more convenient than buying the stuff, the camping gear, right? It cost me a lot less. It was delivered to me. And when I'm done with it, I don't have to think about how to maintain it, where to store it, all of that. I press a button, someone comes and takes it away. Now, if you think about what that takes, there's a tremendous amount of logistics, from the transporter, of course, to the marketplace, to what about dispute management? What if I steal it? What if I break it? How do we figure out what to deal with it? What about collateral, right? And who manages all that? So all of the software needed to crowdsource those roles, everything's been built. And in the process of that, what will happen then is millions and millions of products no longer need to be manufactured daily that are going to end up spending 99% of their useful lifetime in storage, a cupboard, a garage somewhere. And in the process, millions of products don't need to be built, which means we don't have to consume natural resources and pollute. And that's our way of attacking the climate crisis. So along with the marketplace and the social network, you've got a game-changing DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub or whatever you want to call it, delivery service. Game-changing how? How about we just don't break the backs of the small businesses? When you charge them 30%, like all those companies are, you're taking their entire margin away from them. So we're going to do it for 10%, so that way we're not breaking their backs, and we're going to put all of that on top of our very own cryptocurrency. That's Superior. Superior how? Well, first of all, the price has no volatility. As you may know, most cryptocurrencies have pricing going up and down like crazy. And we've launched 7 cryptocurrencies during our alpha test years. And what we learned is that when a cryptocurrency price goes up and down, it wreaks havoc with the psychology of a marketplace, because you never know what you're paying or what you're earning for something, right? So no volatility. And then, so it's a stable coin with a slight amount of appreciation. Listen, a slight amount of appreciation, anybody that understands compounding knows, can take a coin from, say, $1, where it was at a year and a half ago, to ultimately flatlining at $100 in 10 years from when we started that. Does that make sense? And so over that period of time, that 10-year period, it gives us a way to reward our engineers, right, as well as our top executives. As you know, I promised you $5,000 here today if you decide this is not for you. Does that make sense? And this is how we can do it with our cryptocurrency. And so ultimately, all of this that comes together forms the most functionally rich social media and social commerce platform ever developed, uniquely democratic. No one else has been able to do this. We've spent $250 million to build this, and believe it or not, that's not a lot of money compared to the other platforms. 60% of that came from our patents, and 40% of it, about $100 million of that, came from our revenue and donations within the platform. So you're now about to be a tech entrepreneur with a fully integrated product that you own. You know what might be the best part? The marketing model. Your business, the way you go to business. It's 100% proven. And so, little background on myself. I think I might have mentioned that in a couple decades ago, I started a portal that became the leading portal for college students. Well, the way I went to market, the way I eventually figured out how to go to market after trying a lot of things, was by bringing on the local merchants around college campuses to offer student discounts. And I signed up 100,000 businesses. That brought in millions of college students, dominated, and we filed to go public, and the dot-com crash happened. Well, it turns out that model is still exactly what you need to do, and there's no one doing it, right? So you have this really weird thing where it's proven, we know exactly what to do, And yet no one's out there doing it. Remember what happened 4 years after I filed to go public and the company got sold? Facebook starts up in the college market. And before you know it, they lost interest in the college market and went forward. And so your team, when they go out and contact these merchants, they're going to find no competition. And so it's incredible that you have no competition and yet it's 100% proven. Look, have you heard of the 80-20 rule? Where 20% of your efforts are going to be responsible for 80% of your results. And so the hard thing is figuring out what is that 20% that you can just focus on to get most of the results. It was Steve Jobs that said the process and path to achieving that simple is usually quite complicated. In fact, a little quote from him, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It takes a lot of hard work to make something simple, to truly understand the underlying challenges and come up with elegant solutions. I won't read the rest of this, but let me summarize. Focus and simplicity. Once you get there, you can move mountains. And this is what we've been able to achieve. For 7 years in that platform a couple decades ago, and then once again here, thanks to COVID, this last couple of years, we were able to just iterate, and make this thing incredibly distilled down for you so you can succeed, be successful in a proven method with limited time. Again, remember what we're trying to do here. The world's first inclusive economy in the digital space, where we, in essence, become the United States. Like the United States was to the world, we want to do that in the digital space. Okay, so I hope you're getting a sense of what the mission's all about and now what our products are all about. And as I reminded you, 95% of people that watch this want to proceed forward. And if that's not you, we'll take care of you. So now let's drill down and talk about the role. What will you do? So I should tell you, the way we're going to go to market is going to be through the college market. Why is this? Well, college students are the early adopters, right? They're always eager to try new things. When they like something, word of mouth spreads like crazy. Why is that? Because you sometimes have 10, 20, 30, or 40,000 of them living and going to school in a 1 square mile area. They live 5, 6, 7, 8 of them on top of each other in a dorm room or in an apartment, right? And so when they like something, word spreads like crazy. And when they decide to go to the taco shop or to the bar, 3, 4, 5 of them go together. And so when one of them, shows a product or something to the others say, well, how do I sign up for this? So when they like something, it is incredibly powerful. Okay, so this is why we're going to go through the college market. As you might remember, this is how Facebook started, right, in the college market as well. And so, as I mentioned, I started a company decades ago and ultimately dominated the college market. So I know a thing about that as well. And we're going to use all of those tactics here. In fact, the proven marketing approach has been further simplified so that now college students with no business or sales experience can do this for you. Does that make they can perform all of the work for you? Does that make sense? We call the college students that work for you, we call them AEs. Stands for Account Executives. It's a great title. They love that. They love to have that on their resume that I was an account executive, right? And so we call them AEs, and they're truly amazing to work with. They're energetic, they're idealistic, they're optimistic, and they love what only you can uniquely give them, which is a job that has total freedom, where they can, as their class schedule changes, they don't have to ask for permission. They can work around their schedule and location. They don't have to go to an office, or a lot of times they don't have a vehicle, right? So they can work from wherever they are. They love the earnings. Unmatched, unheard of for college students, as you'll see in a second, and they love the purpose. One of the top complaints college students have, and they take on jobs that people will give them, like being a busboy, if you will, is they hate the fact that there's no purpose to it. And of course, this frustrates people that hire them. Like, you have no experience. Why do you think you should have some great purpose? And so they love our mission. It just so happens the things that we're focused on are things they really care about. We're going to provide you with everything you need to easily hire and manage your AEs. Does that make sense? Because we've tested everything, we've tried everything, and let's drill down and talk about how it works. So your AEs will build out your territory in 2 steps. One, they'll sign up merchants around campus to offer a student discount. 75% of those merchants will say yes to them. Why is that? Because it's free. If you offer a student discount to our students, we'll promote you Mr. or Mrs. Merchant. So 75% of those merchants will say yes to your AEs. Now, I should remind you, college students love student discounts. This is what will bring them into the platform. Now, as soon as they do that, we apply a window sticker to the merchant's front door, so that as customers come in, students, faculty, and staff, they see these big stickers with these colors that say, we support higher education. So the merchants love these stickers because it makes them look good. And the students, faculty, and staff see that from the corner of the eye. They recognize these colors and go, oh yeah, I need to ask for my discount. And then just in case they forget, we put a counter display next to their cash register. And the merchants are very happy to put this because these are merchants around college campuses. They want to look good for the college community. And so we start with local merchants and getting a student discount from them, adding them to our platform. Now, what's the secret to jumpstarting student word of mouth? Well, it has to do with student groups. Every campus has hundreds of student groups like sororities and fraternities and hobby-based, and interest-based groups and clubs. And so we contact the student groups on campus and help them set up fundraisers. And by the way, 85% of the student groups say yes to your AEs. And so your AEs can choose from 2 different paths. They can specialize. Does that make sense? Either work with the local merchants or work with the student groups. Now, how do your AEs earn? Well, they can earn a piece of all advertising from these local merchants and a product called Fast Start, which you'll learn a lot more about, which helps merchants get off to a fast start. Then there's also a bunch of other revenue streams that come from within the apps. E-commerce, right, where people are selling stuff to each other, or they're buying food or other products from the merchants. Sharing is where that renting, right, when I rent that camping gear, sharing we call that. Social commerce, when I'm selling things to each other within the platform. Ads that consumers can buy, advertising, because if everyone can earn, there's an interest in buying advertising with the consumers. Subscription, so think of Netflix or Amazon Prime where there's a monthly recurring charge. There's a whole bunch of goodies that we have learned people want. That creates amazing revenue. And then people love to buy their cryptocurrency. And so there's, just in our alpha years, we sold millions of dollars of our cryptocurrency. And so your AEs will earn 25% of all of that fast start and advertising revenue and 2.5% of all of these other revenue streams. It adds up to some incredible earnings for them and grows over time. Some really amazing numbers, I'm sure you'll agree, for a college student. And it's been designed such that when they're graduating from school and thinking about getting a job, they're thinking, why would I want to leave this? In fact, I'll keep this job and continue to stay focused with you. Does that make sense? Now, your best AEs will be designated as key AEs and automatically earn double. Isn't that incredible? In other words, instead of earning this percentage, if they're a key AE, we double that to 50% on the advertising and fast start and double that 2.5% to 5% if they're a key AE. In other words, their annual earnings go from something like this to something like this. Does that make sense? Everything doubled. And so how do they achieve this key AE title? Well, what's the most important determinant of an AE's ultimate success? Do they get going? Do they get started after you put them on your team, right? So in order to help you get them motivated and get going, we just ask them to get going. As they simply get started and get moving, they'll be designated as a key AE for life and earn double. All right, so that's what your AEs do. They focus on the merchants or focus on the student groups. It's really, really simple. They get trained in 3.5 hours. It's that easy for them to do their job. So now let's talk about what you will do. Now, your job is to, one, quickly hire some AEs, and as you'll soon learn, we can help with that. Two, promote 2 of them, right, to be the leaders. And then each week, do a one-on-one with your top AEs, those 2 top AEs. Do a team meeting with all your AEs. Remember, you're the boss. You decide when that is. Could be lunchtime, could be after hours, could be weekends, whatever works for you. And you decide where. You most likely do it on Zoom most of the time. But from time to time, you may want to meet with them, especially when they're kicking butt for you, bring them to your house or meet at the park or what have you. And this is what they want. They want you to look up to. They need that sort of leadership to nod at them and say, you got this, don't worry, right? A lot of times it's their first job out of school. And even as simple as we've made all this for them, it helps to have a mentor. And this is what they want out of it. So it's simple and straightforward. Your work is 100% remote, 100% your schedule. All you do is those one-on-ones and team meetings. We train you quickly, and we've distilled the training down to 30-minute trainings over Zoom, 3 days a week, right? For 2 weeks, you learn about how to bring on your AEs, and for 2 weeks, we'll talk about how to lead them, right? We've got some tools, we've got some tips, we've got some tricks we've learned. We'll make that easy for you. And that's it. 4 weeks, 3 times a week, 30 minutes each. Very, very simple. We can train your AEs for you. We can even pay your AEs, as you'll find out in a second in your business. Now, territory owners earn bonuses on 8 different revenue streams, just like those AEs. And there's a pace for everyone. Maybe you've got 5 hours to put into this. Maybe you've got 10 hours to put into it. But if all you've got is 5 hours or less, we can get you successful with the numbers that you've been seeing. And so that's what you do. It's really that simple. So let's drill down and talk about how much you'll earn and how quickly you'll earn. First of all, how do you earn? Well, you'll generate 10% on all your advertising and fast start earnings and 1% on all those revenue streams. Remember, your AEs may be earning a higher percentage than you, but you're generating across all of your AEs. Does that make sense? So it adds up to a lot more. But also, we can increase, as you'll see in a second, that 10% all the way up to 60% on your advertising and fast start, and that 1% all the way up to 6%. So we can multiply that by 6 for you, as you'll see in a second. In other words, take you from here, and feel free to download the calculator, to numbers that are 6 times larger, as you can see there, going into the millions, actually. And so let's talk about how quickly you'll earn. If you follow our simple instructions, after 90 days, you should be earning $15,000 or more per month. And then within 60 days after that, never earn less than $30,000 a month. How does that sound? How is it you can accomplish that? Well, remember the 80-20 rule. We're going to get you focused on the 20% that matters through our years of experience building this business model. All right. Now, having had 2 years, thanks to COVID, to listen to our territory owners and innovate with them, we've come up with some mind-blowing options. Remember this timeline I showed you and the mind-blowing options there? Well, we had some time to focus on those. So let's talk about what our territory owners have asked and what options we've created for you. The main things that you can imagine they've asked for are, if you think about the word profit, it's, revenue minus cost. So they've asked for 1, how do we have no cost here, right? 2, how do we get even more revenue, right? And then 3, certainty. How do we get certainty that we'll succeed? So let's drill down into some options that you'll have in these areas. So first of all, no cost. Well, first of all, what cost will you have? You're going to receive millions of dollars worth of those products, apps, technologies, everything that we showed you for free, right? And the price that we have for these territory acquisition, $120,000, we're waiving it completely, setting up everything for you completely free of charge. So all of that is yours for free. So what cost do you have? Well, there's the merchant consumables. What is that? That window sticker I showed you and the counter display will end up costing you together about $2 or $3 per merchant. So if you sign up 50 merchants or 100 merchants over time, it ends up costing you a few $100, nothing at all, basically nothing at all. You've got your staff, of course, and you can hire, it's your business, you can hire as many people as you want and do it however you want to do it. But really the main staff you're going to need are your AEs. And then there's a maintenance fee just to make sure you're out there maintaining all your technologies, maintaining everything you need to run your business. We put a small, tiny little price on that, which is a fraction of what it costs us to support you, just to make sure if you're not taking advantage of it, that we stop expending all the resources on our end. Think about a company that provides a gym membership to its employees where they pick up, most of the cost, but they want the employee to pick up some. So if the employee's not going to the gym, hopefully the employee cuts it off. And so that the company's not expending money on a gym membership that the employee's not using. So it's almost nothing, as you can see there. And so that's it, by the way. Those are your costs. Now, let's talk about some of those options. So for support, there's you get essential support built in, right? Where all your apps are provided to you. The CRM, which is how all your transactions happen. It's how you see your AEs, how your AEs see the merchants. Everything happens for the business side through the CRM product that we have that we built from the ground up for your needs. Transaction processing at the point of sale, online, everywhere. All of this is provided as part of essential support. Training, as I mentioned, you'll be trained personally by our president, Joe Davis. This is how serious we're taking your time, where we want nothing but the best for you. We're not bringing on a trainer to train you. Our president wants to train you himself. And so all of that, completely free for you, essential. Now, by popular demand, we've also launched Pro support. And so what's included with Pro? All the apps, same thing. Everything that's part of Essential is included, but CRM for unlimited AEs. So listen, there's a cost in providing the CRM for your AEs. We'll provide that as part of Pro, free to all your AEs. Otherwise, they can pay for it. It doesn't cost much each month. It's very inexpensive, but why not make it free for them if you can? So that's why we came up with Pro. Unlimited AE compensation. So let me see if you can digest this one. We will pay your entire payroll for you forever. So not a penny comes from your earnings. And so that way we cover your payroll. How's that for an option as part of Pro? Cutting your costs, right? The only cost that really exists is that payroll that ramps as your revenues ramp. Training for your AEs, we'll take care of that as well. So they don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. Customer service. You can set up your own customer service team there locally, or let us do it for you, for your merchants, for your users, everything. We can take care of all of that as part of Pro. If you want to be a leader of other territory owners and participate in world-class conferences, we've got some really fun things we do, like the President's Club, we call it, where we go out together to Hawaii, do some fun things for half the day, and spend half the day focusing on products and ideas and innovation. If that's something that interests you, guess what? We would love to have you there. How much does all of that cost? How's this? One-time setup fee of only $975, and then after that, free for life. A one-time setup fee, just to make sure you're going to take advantage if we set it all up for you, everything free. That includes unlimited AE compensation, where we pay your entire payroll for your entire business forever. Is that pretty incredible? And by the way, I'll also, if you're interested, I'll show you how to wipe off hundreds of dollars of that setup fee as well. So we'll get to that in a moment, but you wanted no cost. I think we got really, really close to that, because your real only cost is that cost of payroll, and we can wipe that out now with that new Pro support. Okay, the second thing people want is they want even more revenue. So here's what we came up with. Territory owners, some territory owners will be designated as tier 1 territory owners. And what that means is they'll automatically earn double for life. All of the earnings that you saw, we're going to double it. How do you achieve that? You simply get started. You remember key AEs? We'll do the same thing with you. So within your first few weeks, just get moving, right? You're not going to have to do some heroics. You just get moving and we'll double your earnings for life. How's that for even more revenue? Doubling it, but there's more. We also, by popular demand, we came up with bonus tracks. So you remember with advertising at Fast Start and these other revenue streams, we have the standard bonus track where you earn 10% on advertising at Fast Start and 1% on those. Well, by popular demand, we've come up with a double track where we basically double that to 20% and 2%, and also a founder track for some of the people that came in early and our founders and help us develop all this. We created a founder track for them where they get 30% of advertising at Fast Start and 3% of those revenue streams across all their whole territory. Now, remember the tier 1 we just talked about where it doubles? Well, guess what? That'll apply here as well. So that 30% can be 60% if you're tier 1 and 6% on the other revenue streams. Does that make sense? And so what's the cost of this? 0 for standard, right? Built in. If you want to go with the double, how about this? A one-time setup fee, once again, of $975, and you get that for life, and the founder the same.
right? So it really, at this point, makes no sense to go with the double. And $0 per month forever. Show that you've got a little skin in the game. Show that you're serious about this. $9.75 up front. One-time setup fee for us to set everything up for you. And after that, you can earn up to 6 times more. Does that make sense? 60% and 6%, up to 6 times more, which is how you get to these crazy, crazy revenue numbers. And so I hope that that you feel that addresses that I want even more revenue. We're pretty much throwing the kitchen sink at our territory owners because we can, right? We don't have Wall Street to worry about. We don't have shareholders that want profits. We can do this. Okay, so the third thing that's come up is 100% certainty. How do we provide that certainty? Well, let me explain one of our needs and see if there's an opportunity here. So as you may know, we've carved up the planet into 20,000 territories. And that's how we go to market, right, with territory owners. And like any organization on the planet, we need hierarchy. We can't have all of them just being in a flat organization. We need some form of hierarchy to manage these folks. Well, we've set up the following hierarchy where you have those 20,000 territory owners at the bottom of this organizational chart. Well, with management best practices where no one's responsible for more than 8 people, well, do the math. 20,000 divided by 8, you need a couple thousand division managers. Who manages them? Well, divide that by 8, you need a few hundred zone managers. Who manages them? Divide that by 8, you've got 40 regional directors and 5 global directors. So we're calling this group up here the President's Circle, right? Our top leaders. And this is why we reached out to you. We wanted to entice you with one of these roles. Thank you for listening to everything about the territory, and we're certainly going to do our best to get you a territory. But this is why we reached out to you ultimately, because we're trying to bring in our top leaders. So what are the skills and qualifications, by the way, for these roles? As part of a tech company, you need to have at least 10 years and preferably 20 years of leadership experience. You've got to have great clarity of thought. You need to be able to think clearly and have good communication skills because you're responsible for thousands of territories, even though you'll never have more than 8 people reporting to you. You got to be decisive, which means sometimes when you have limited information, you need to make a decision with the best you have. And then as you go forward, if it was a mistake and you get more information, you change and you roll with the punches, which kind of gets us to the flexible thinking. We're an innovative company on the tech front, as I hope you can see now. And so if some little company or some big company is doing something interesting at a local level somewhere, we're not going to sit back and give them a year or two to roll over us. We're going to find that information, we're going to innovate and come up with the products or the business models, and then we're going to roll it out globally. What this means for our top leaders is they need to be able to roll with the punches and move their organization forward. Does that make sense? So if that's you, then this is an opportunity that is interesting for you. And this is why we reached out to you. So we're calling this the President's Circle. What's in it for you? First of all, you would earn a piece of every single dollar coming in from thousands of territories. And yes, that piece, like the other revenue streams, is subject to that doubler and tripler that you get with that founder bonus track. How's that? And that's how you get to those purple, that leadership. Notice that the purple, the leadership earnings, are actually greater than all the other revenue streams combined, right? We want this to be incredibly enticing for heavy hitters like yourself, which is why we sought you out. Now, the other reason it adds up to so much is, well, you're earning a little piece of thousands of territories, as I mentioned, and a piece of the zone manager and the division manager's leadership earnings at no cost to them, by the way. By the way, before I leave the slide, I should point out something to you. That is, this is a management hierarchy like any other hierarchy. This is not multi-level marketing. None of these people are responsible for recruiting the others. Neither are you. None of these people are buying shampoo or insurance or Tupperware or anything. No product, no services. No one's making commissions off the sale of these things. These are that's what would make it a multi-level marketing or pyramid scheme. This is not that case. This is exactly like any standard management hierarchy. Just want to point that out to you because I had someone say, well, this looks like a pyramid. All management hierarchies do. All hierarchies and all companies do. But the components that make it multi-level marketing are not here. People aren't recruiting. Some poor sucker is not going to end up with a garage full of shampoo, right, at the end of the day. Okay, it's been set up to leverage your experience, right? So you can do it in 5 hours or less. Probably less, because unlike your territory where you're managing college students, these are not college students. These are leaders that we bring you, right? And so if they don't like to work on your schedule, let's say the only time you have is mornings or evenings or weekends, and that's when you can meet with them. If they don't like that, you don't add them to your team, right? And you'll have up to 8, as few as 1, up to 8, as many as you want, up to 8 people reporting to you. And you're only going to choose the people who you believe, based on their leadership experience, are capable of ensuring problems from their organization don't end up on your desk. Does that make sense? And if there's a bad hire or two, some people don't end up living up to your expectation, we'll help you replace them, right? And so the only thing we need to make sure as part of this is that you get this business, that you understand this business. And as you've seen, this side of the house is not very complicated. But the best way I know to make sure you get this business is let's just get you successful quickly in your territory. And the best way I know how to do that is let's just grab our top 2 people in the organization, myself and my president, Joe Davis, and meet with you for 15 minutes a day, every day, Monday through Friday, same time every day, to make it simple, and just make sure that we're helping you succeed. We want to unblock you. We want to make it so that you're not swimming in a sea of thousands of territory owners that are all waiting on support. You'll never be waiting on support, right? You're never more than 24 hours away from meeting with Joe and I together. And in between that, we're highly responsive to you through email or phone or text or Slack or what have you, right? My own credentials, as you may know, I've been running tech companies for 35 years. But more importantly, I built this model for the ground up in that prior company that ultimately dominated the college market. It's the same exact model. But Joe Davis is a younger guy than me, and he's done this model here in this platform recently. So together, we offer a really good 1-2 punch where I can say with confidence that your success is virtually assured, right? When you work with us. Now, all you need to do is build your small team of AEs and manage them. As you know, that's how you succeed. And even with that, for the President's Circle people, I can help with that, right? We'll get our organization to just basically go on LinkedIn with our LinkedIn account, find all the college students that attend your target university that are on LinkedIn. We'll find their email addresses. We'll validate those. We'll start sending them content sequences from our email addresses. And when they respond that they're interested in the opportunity, guess what? Our recruiters forward that to you and say, meet Sally, right? She's shown an interest. And up to that moment, you haven't raised a single finger. And so this is just an example of the things we can do to help you succeed. Now, I can do this for a small number of people that I'm trying to accelerate into these top leadership roles. I can't do it for thousands of territory owners because it's manpower intensive. It's not automated. It doesn't scale. And of course, Joe and I, our president, we don't scale either, right? So to make time to do this, we really just need to make sure that we're doing it only with qualified people that are serious about success. We need to make sure, as we talked about earlier, that you have those requirements. This is why we sought you out. We know you do. They've got to be progressing. What do I mean by that? If this fellow Fred is here, we're giving away territories for free, right? And, let's just say he's here for the entertainment value. He's what we call a looky-loo, right? And we're meeting with him daily, and 3, 4, 5 days in a row go by. He's not doing anything. He's just there to be entertained by Joe and I. We're going to very politely whisper in his ear and say, hey, Fred, you need to step down from the President's Circle and be a respected member of our territory owner organization. We just can't have our president, Joe, and I meeting with you daily, right? We don't scale. And that's what I mean by progressing. A little skin in the game. What am I talking about here? I've learned that when people have a little bit of skin in the game, they take it more seriously, and they just become a much better use of our time working with someone that takes it seriously. Listen, there is no big investment that anyone has to make here. If you think about it, there were only 2 options. One was that pro support. For $975 one-time setup fee, remember this? Thousands of dollars each month in payroll are covered for life. It's a no-brainer, right? And so if this fellow Fred says, no, I'm good, I don't want to pay that, he's basically signaling that he's not planning on being successful. Does that make sense? It's a pretty good signal to us that maybe this fellow isn't worth our time. Or think about the only other option that exists, where, again, for $975, one-time setup fee, after that, no monthly cost ever, right? The person would earn 3 times more, but actually 6 times more because we'll focus on them becoming tier 1. Does that make sense? That's the point of meeting with you daily, is to get you successful, get you to be tier 1, which means you'll earn 6 times more. Again, if this fellow Fred says, no, I'm good, I don't need that. Well, basically he's saying no to 5 out of every $6 that you're seeing there, right? So just wipe out millions of dollars because of a singular one-time setup fee of $975, which, like I said earlier, I'm going to show you how to wipe off hundreds of dollars of that as well. Okay, so I hope you are now getting the sense that we can provide you near 100% certainty by working with you daily. Listen, I would not be putting my time into this, and neither would our President Joe, if we didn't have great certainty that we can help you succeed. And this is what I mean, ultimately, about having a sliver of skin in the game, being qualified, be progressing. Of course, you need to be serious with this. So if you would allow us, Joe and I, to work with you daily to ensure your success in your territory and accelerate you into one of those top positions in the platform, and if you have the wherewithal to invest a few $100 in your own success, then assuming we can get you a territory that you want, the fun starts on Monday. So what would happen is, in a moment, we're going to gather your top 3 choices for a college or university in your area, and our research team will get to work, and they'll reach out to you in 2 hours or less and let you know if any of those territories you wanted were available. And in the order that you provided, if they are, they'll set everything up for you, give you access. You don't have to do a single additional thing. And set you up with orientation, which will be with me on Monday. I will bring our president, Joe Davis, to that same call for the meet and greet with you, so you don't have to come back to multiple calls. So that all happens if one of the territories you want are available. And if none of the territories you want are available, we'll also let you know within 2 hours. So first thing we have to do is gather your top 3 choices. And so all of that will happen in a very smooth way. Remember, the qualifications, if you want to be in the President's Circle, are those. If none of those are you, kindly don't step up to the President's Circle. Okay, before we move forward, before we get together here, a quick refresher, because I know it was a lot of information. It's like drinking from a fire hose, right? So a quick refresher. I said earlier that you'll love this. I hope you're feeling that way. I mentioned 95% of executives that watch this, that have gathered this information from me, decide to proceed. And if you don't love it, or if you choose not to proceed, you'll get $5,000, as I mentioned here earlier. Again, why do 95% proceed? Because it's a real chance to make a difference for your country, improve people's lives, and change the world. Remember what the U.S. did for the world by giving them this example of inclusivity, where as opposed to what most countries were set up to do, the U.S. showed what would happen if there wasn't that elites that were skimming off the top, if you will. In essence, an inclusive versus extractive economy, right? And then we talked about how today something's changed. After a very long time of the share of income that's going to the top 1% going down, something bad is happening. We talked about how ultimately that's about this thing called the internet that came around and made it easy for anyone with a lot of money to monopolize entire verticals, right? The result of that is evident. The top 50 people in our country, and it's similar in all other countries, have as much wealth as the bottom half of our entire country, right? So what's happening, we're moving from this kind of thing to this kind of thing, where the pie is shrinking and a lot of that wealth is dormant, is sitting dormant. And so we talked about how this red line growing like that is a problem. And as people start losing hope for their financial future, and they can't get rid of their politicians, even though their politicians just keep getting reelected, bad things start to happen. And that's why in America, most people believe civil war is now inevitable, and you're starting to see the cracks. We talked about what we're going to do about it, right? We're going to launch the world's first inclusive economy. We're going to do this by building a better social media platform designed by some of the world's best economic and political science professors in the top universities. We've got some very highly patented technologies that all of these companies are referencing in their own patent filings. Again, if you want to see that for yourself, be sure to go to google.com/patents, type in POUSTI into that and see all these filings. We integrate in a revolutionary marketplace for products and services. Revolutionary how? Everything sellers need provided to them for free. Ultimately, anybody can sell or share anything. Everything's provided for free and up and running very, very quickly. That marketplace also helps us attack the climate crisis. We integrate in a delivery service all on top of our own cryptocurrency. Some of the world's biggest and best known investors, billionaires like these fellows, offered us incredible investment opportunities that we said no to. Why? So we could ultimately provide the world with its first inclusive economy. And just like what happened with the example of the US, do the same thing in the digital space. Now, that is how we get out there and make a difference. It's a real opportunity to generate an incredible business for yourself, as you know, and it is free. Everything's being provided to you free of charge, as you know, including millions of dollars worth of technology, the setup fees and territory acquisition costs waived. It's simple. As you might remember, we spent 2 years here during COVID simplifying everything even further from what it was before, so that you can focus on that 80-20 rule, the 20% that has 80% of the value, so you can move mountains. We will provide everything you need to easily hire and manage those AEs, account executives. They're the ones that do all the work, right? What do? Quickly hire some of them, promote 2 of them, and then do one-on-ones and a team meeting with those folks. You're the boss, you decide when, you decide where. Proven, right? This model cannot be more proven than having taken a company from concept to filing to go public, dominating the college market. So it cannot be more proven than that. And ultimately, you're guaranteed to succeed when you follow our simple instructions. In fact, we're so sure that you will succeed that our president and I will guarantee it using the most valuable and scarce resource this company and platform has, which is our time. Does that make sense? We're going to both meet with you every day, 5 days a week until you succeed as part of that President's Circle offer. We would not commit to doing this and giving you everything for free and adding our time on top of that if we weren't confident, if we weren't very confident that you can and will succeed. We talked about 9 proven revenue streams that generates that multi-million-dollar opportunity for you. And how quickly do you get going? If you follow our simple instructions, and we'll be there to help you, in 90 days, you'll generate more than $15,000 a month. And within 60 days after that, never earn less than $30,000 a month. What cost do you have? Again, merchant consumables, a window sticker and counter display adds up to almost nothing, $2 to $3 per merchant, but it's easier for you to order that there locally than us ship it. You've got the cost of your staff, of course, your business, and a very small maintenance fee just to make sure that we know you're alive and kicking out there, so we're not expending all these resources here for you. And that's it. Those are all your costs, but we have these options for you. You said you want no cost, and we gave you a way to basically wipe out the only real cost that you'll have as you ramp up, which is your payroll. As a reminder, with that pro support, one-time setup fee of $975, and again, I'll show you how to wipe off a few $100 off that. We will pay your payroll for life. And so it really leaves you with almost zero cost. You want more revenue? Well, if you're a tier 1, we'll double your revenue for life. How do you achieve it? You just get started. We'll show you how in the first few weeks you'll be deemed tier 1 for life. And then also we came up with the double and the founder track, which triples your earnings. However, since we're going to be helping you, that can add up to 6 times more. All for a one-time setup fee of $975, which again, I'll help you wipe off hundreds off that, and no additional costs going forward ever again. And that's how you get to these incredible, incredible earnings. Finally, you wanted certainty. I mentioned we carved up the planet into 20,000 territories. Like any organization in the world, we need some management hierarchy. This is the hierarchy we have in mind. We have a role for you in the President's Circle. These positions are wide open. This is why we reached out. What's in it for you? You get a piece of every single dollar of revenue. That's how it adds up to so much. Minimal time commitment on your part. You're managing up between 1 and 8 leaders, right? Which you hire, and we'll help you replace them if you make a bad hire. What do you get with this? You're going to get Joe and I, our president, focused with you every single day, 15 days, 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week until you no longer need us. That's how I can say with confidence that we're going to make sure you succeed. In fact, we'll even help you hire your AEs by emailing all the college students that go to your target university that are on LinkedIn, right? And when they respond back that they're interested, our recruiter will send that to you. All we ask is that you're qualified, that you've got at least 10 years of leadership experience, that you be serious about this, be progressing, you got a little skin in the game, meaning what? That you do the no-brainer here, which is go for pro support, so that you're not saddled with all that payroll. We'll take care of that. Go for the founder track. Why? So you're earning 6 times more, so that you don't have a bunch of people reporting to you that are earning way more than you are. But more importantly, so it tells us that you've got some skin in the game, you're serious about these no-brainers, which then makes us feel like it's worth our time because we don't scale. We can't do this with a lot of people, obviously. Now, assuming we can get a territory we want. So that's the only obstacle left in front of us. You know, as I said, orientation starts on Monday. Before we get going here, a couple of frequently asked questions. Can I change my school after I sign up? The answer is yes, right? If it turns out that you do a little bit more research later and want to change the school, no problem. We can change that for you. What's the best type of college to go for? Well, the 4-year ones are better, right? They generally have more students. A lot of times people live on campus. So if you can find 4-year colleges that are larger, that's better than smaller ones, right? Do I need to live close to the college that I choose? The answer is no. Listen, you can do your entire job remotely. You don't have to ever meet with your AEs. Now, from a practical standpoint, what's going to happen is when some of your AEs are kicking butt for you, there's going to be times when you would wish you were closer to them so you could take them out for lunch or take them out for drinks or what have you and show your appreciation. So it really helps to be closer to them, but you don't have to be living there, but I highly recommend it. If none of my top territories are available, can I come back and ask for more options? The answer is yes. Can I have multiple territories? And the answer is unfortunately no. Listen, if we would allow multiple territories, all the territories would be gone by now. Right? People have come along and said they just want to buy all the territories, which of course makes sense from their perspective. But from our perspective, we want to have owner operators in these territories, not yet another billionaire that owns a big piece of it. That's not why we built this thing, as I think you know now. Listen, can I go with just the free and then upgrade later when I want those things later? Unfortunately not. If we can secure a territory for you, engineering is going to set everything up, going to burn for example, your commission rates and everything, and and set everything up with your payroll, for example, into your settings. So now's the time for you to decide if you want those upgrades, and if you don't want it, that's totally fine. But if you do want it, you set it up now, and we set it all up for you. Listen, we have a tremendous amount of moving parts here, and a lot of territory owners coming in, and we don't have a lot of time to go back and forth and change things, if I can be straight up and direct with you. If I change my mind later, but I pay for those upgrades, can I get a refund on anything I pay for? The answer is absolutely. Listen, if this is 100% risk-free for you, why don't we give you 2 weeks so you can get in, go to orientation, you can come to if you're on the President Circle, you can come and meet with Joe and I. You're going to get trained by Joe regardless, and get to know everything and make sure everything is advertised in the brochure and frankly have a chance to even change your mind. So absolutely, it's all covered by a no questions asked, 100% money back guarantee on any penny you could spend with us. Look, I've got a ton of questions about the product or the tech or the business opportunity or the revenue streams or the mission. The answer is of course you do. Right? And there's a lot of moving parts to that. We have very, very carefully designed orientation and the training to get and keep you fully educated on everything. It's not something I can do for you individually right here, right now on our Zoom call in a moment, right? As you can imagine, but we'll even meet with you daily, right? If you're qualified as part of that President Circle. So I promise you in the coming weeks, you're going to have tons of opportunity to get all your questions answered. I just can't do that with you individually, if at all possible. So what happens now? I'm ready to meet with you on Zoom right now. Right? So there's 2 choices for you. Either one, you're moving forward. Like I said, 95% of people that hear this decide to move forward, or you've decided you're not going to move forward. It's not for you. Okay? Let's talk about the first one first, moving forward. There are 2 options for you. Either meet me on Zoom right now, and I'll show you how, and I'm waiting for you, or you can go to our self-service page right now and enter your choices for your college or university. What support do you want to go with, and what bonus track do you want to go with? Does that make sense? Let's talk about that second one first. So if you go to that page, here's the benefits to you. 1, no interview. You bet on us, I'll bet on you. Does that make sense? There'll be no interview. You just go in there and sign up. And how about this? To save our time, as you can imagine, we're being inundated with territory owners coming in. How about this? We'll take off $250 off that pro support if you decide to go with that. Take another $250 off the founder bonus track. So we'll save you $500. Do you remember this here? It pays all your payroll for life. We'll wipe out $250 off of that. And also the bonus track, do you remember this? We basically make it so you're earning 6 times more. We'll wipe off $250 off that if you go to the self-service page right now within the next few minutes. Now, again, remember, all of this is covered by a no questions asked money back guarantee. So you may turn out when you come to training, you change your mind and this isn't for you. If you're worried about it, don't worry about it, right? It literally will cost you not a penny if you decide ultimately this is not for you. So if you go to the self-service page within the next few minutes, we'll wipe off $500. And how about this? $15,000 worth of our cryptocurrency will be added to your account. How's that? Why should we give $5,000 to the people that don't want to move forward, but nothing to the people that do? So $15,000, my way of saying thank you for your time today and for going to the self-service page, which allows us to move more quickly. And do you want to be a member of the President's Circle and have Joe and I meeting with you daily? If not, I'll see you on Monday for orientation. And then I'll see you every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we have a global leader call, territory owner call, where we all get together. It's really fun. And if you want to be part of the President's Circle, in addition to those, we'll see you every weekday. Joe and I, every weekday, Monday through Friday for 15 minutes. Does that make sense? So how do you go to the self-service page? You just go to go.movement.college. Point your browser at go.movement.college, and you can fill out that information there. Okay, so that's what the self-service page is all about. But what if you choose to meet me on Zoom right now? Listen, I am standing by to do that, and we'll meet. And then when you're ready, we'll ask for your choices for your colleges or university, your support, and your bonus track. And of course, that'll continue to be covered by our no questions asked money back guarantee. And so to join me on Zoom right now, simply point your browser at enroll.movement.college in a moment. If you do that now, you'll receive $10,000 in our cryptocurrency added to your account. So I'm ready to meet you now. So if you're moving forward, you can go to the self-service page, go.movement.college. You receive $15,000 and you save $500 on the Pro and Founder, all covered by our no questions asked money back guarantee if you decide to go for those. Or you can meet me on Zoom right now by pointing your browser at enroll.movement.college. If you go that route, instead of $15,000, you'll get $10,000 in cryptocurrency. You won't get a discount on the Pro and Founder, but the president and I will meet with you if you qualify for the President's Circle. And if you're not moving forward, do nothing at all, and you'll be registered to receive $5,000. We already have your information. We already know you're here. This process is all automated, and we'll register you to receive $5,000. Look, either way you go, after we gather your top information for your colleges, it'll be 2 hours before you hear from us. So if you don't hear from us within 2 hours after that, kindly check your promotions or spam or junk folder. It's probably be sitting in there. Look, I realize I've been told this enough times that 2 hours might be the longest 2 hours of your life. I've had more than one person say it's kind of like waiting to see if you've won a multi-million-dollar lottery. I get that. Trust me, our team is very, very consistent. They will reach out to you in 2 hours. If we don't check your promotions folder, what have you, it'll be in there. By the way, if you're just nervous and you want to think about it, right? Of course you're free to do that. But if I may kindly coach you just a bit, let me just ask you this question. What is there to think about? It's a multi-million-dollar opportunity. It's proven for free, right? Our recruiters are competing with each other in your area because there's at least one free territory to see who can fill that territory with a superstar like you first. She or he who hesitates is lost. This is what I'm getting at with the clear thinking, right? The clarity of thought. This is the test, in essence, if you're able to think on your feet. It's also what I'm referring to when I'm talking about being decisive. Yeah, I've heard this person, I've had a person ask me this, well, what if this is a scam? I understand. I mean, you just met us. I get that. Think about it for a moment. Scams, by definition, are fly-by-night. Does that make sense? They don't have the time nor the wherewithal to wait 7 years to get patents, nor do they invent things that will be ever granted patents. And so the idea that they had all these patents and all these companies would be referring it and they're a scam doesn't really hold a lot of water. But let's go with that for a second. What if it was a scam? Well, what would the scam be about? Taking your money, I suppose, and then disappearing with it. In which case, yeah, that would be basically amounting to not honoring the no questions asked money back guarantee policy. So I guess this is where the clarity of thought once again comes in. If you pay with something using your credit or debit card and they have a refund policy that they don't honor, it's a few clicks on your credit card or your bank's website to notify them of the fraud, and your money is coming back to you. And this is why you've likely never been scammed with your credit card or debit card, and why scams often ask for your cryptocurrency or your cash or your check. That's something that can't be reversed. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, but what if the scam is all about, making it really hard to get a refund? We've all seen that kind of thing, like with the cable company, right? When you try to get a refund, they make you call a number, they put you on hold forever, and finally, when someone comes on, it's not someone there to give you a refund or let you out of their service. It's a salesperson who's just trying to waste more of your time. I understand that. I get that, and none of us have time. Look, to get a refund from us, all you need to do is let us know in any way that's convenient for you. In other words, for example, if you simply send the word refund to our support team, support@movement.college, if you simply do that, within a few hours, you'll receive confirmation that your money is on its way back to your account. Not a single penny will be risked with us. We don't want to waste your time. Look, if there's a territory for you that's available and you decide you don't want it or what have you, someone else will easily get it, and there's limited territory. So it makes no difference to us. As I hope you figured out by now, there is no motivation here to generate profits for ourselves. Otherwise, we would have taken money from those investors as an example. So you don't have to worry about any of that. Okay, So again, like I said, I realize that going to the self-service page 2 hours after that's a little scary. It's the same thing if you come and talk to us. But if you want to come talk to me, please do. I'm waiting for you on Zoom right now. And I've left those URLs on the screen. In fact, I'll set up a clock timer right now to 15 minutes. That should give you more than enough time to enter your top 3 choices on the self-service page for your college or university, your support and bonus track options. And if you decide to come to Zoom, come on over. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Either way, I'm going to meet you at orientation and every day going forward if you're part of the President's Circle. And so on that note, I want to thank you for your time. I'll set up this clock. You do that in the 15 minutes, and those benefits are yours. If you come to Zoom right now within the next few minutes, that $10,000 cryptocurrency is yours. Thank you very much again for your time. I can't wait to meet you and get going forward with you starting Monday. Take care.